Lives were suddenly ended by evil. We know that there are 61 people in the audience tonight. We don't know yet if you'll still all be here at the end. We know that roughly 53 of you booked in advance, and that only 8 of you booked tickets at the door. We know this room is about 8 metres wide, 10 metres long and around 15 metres deep.
We know that floors are grey, brown, black kind of colour.
We know the seats are uncomfortable.
We know, backstage, some parts of the changing rooms haven't been cleaned in a very long time.
We know there are 10 of us tonight.
We know that if you add our ages together, it would make a number greater than 150, but smaller than 200. We don't know your ages.
We do know that later, when the lights on the stage fade, there'll be a clicking sound as the metal of the lanterns begins to clink. We know that on the back seat, D19 or 20, someone has scratched something with a penknife maybe, or a pen that's not working.
Or with a piece of glass.
Not writing, just a few horizontal lines.
We know on the front row, on the left chair, there are some inexplicable marks on the bottom of it.
We don't know what caused those marks.
And we don't know how they got there.
We don't know the right word for the colour of the walls. We do know that the temperature on stage is 17 degrees. We know that there are no windows.
We know that the air conditioning is off.
We also know that if all doors were sealed, there would only be enough oxygen to last a small group of us for around 2, possibly 2.5 days.
We know that some of us have claustrophobia.
And we know that some of us are frightened of the dark. We know that some of us are frightened of spiders. And moths. And that a number of us are frightened of snakes and moths.
We know that 2 of us are frightened of heights.
That several faint although queasy at the sight of blood.
The seeks were uneasy with silence.
The Foylights giving on roller coasters. The few are fighting the shadows.
The three are uneasy about flying. We know the difference between frightened and uneasy.
We know our names.
We know each other's names.
We know each other's nicknames, past and present.
In some cases, we know your names.
Sharon's here, Kelsey's mum. Maddie, Dominic's sister. Rowan, Morgan's girlfriend. Jackie, Alice's auntie.
Other people's names we know from the box office. Mr. and Mrs. Simmons.
A. Wild Boar.
We know which of us have brothers and sisters. And which of us have living parents. We know about our own parents, in the sense of living or dead. But we're hazy about the parents and grandparents of others in the group, and hazy about other relations, cousins, aunts, uncles. We know that none of us have a twin.
We know which of us has boyfriends and girlfriends, except in a few cases where there are some ambiguousness or some kind of secrecy.
We know which one of us identifies as gay, unless in a few cases of ambiguousness or some kind of secrecy.
We know which of us eats meat, which of us is vegetarian, which of us drinks, smokes, or uses drugs, which of us is into politics, which of us likes to play games, which of us likes sport, or
We don't know what the future will bring. We don't know which of us will get married. Which of us will stay single, which will divorce. Or come to the fact that later or only later to come to the fact that we're actually gay. We don't know which of us will stay here in England, or which of us might move away. We don't know which of us will have kids.
we don't know which of us will be happy.
We don't know which of us will live life as a tragedy.
We don't know which of us will sell his soul or her soul to the devil.
We don't know which of us will work in an investment bank.
Or earn money waiting tables or taking off clothes.
Or end up sleeping in a doorway.
Or sleeping on the beach.
We don't know which of us is going to be rich,
Or which of us might end up being poor.
though we can take an educated guess.
We know that some people are going to have a lot of difficulty through illness or accidents,
We don't know which of us will have good luck.
or which will have bad luck,
Or which will have good luck disguised as bad luck.
or which will fall on ice.
Or get our hands caught in machinery.
We don't know which of us is going to have big car crashes,
Or which will have small car crashes.
We don't know which of us had red skin rashes.
Or which of us might become addicts or something. Or which of us might win money on the lottery.
We don't know which of us might discover something new, a new dimension, a new planet, a new way to make computer chips, even a brand new way for maths.
We don't know which of us will die first.
20 years' time.
Or in 50 years' time.
We know that Annie's brother has a motorbike.
We know which of us has a good sense of humour. We know which of us laughs the easiest and argues the hardest.
You know, when someone stops you in town and asks you for change for their train fare home, they're probably lying.
We know that when an automated phone system says that you're 73rd in line and that your call is very important, they are most likely lying.
We know how things work.
We know what people tell us.
We know what time it is. We know Kiara and Abby are friends.
You know that Kiara and Abby used to be neighbours.
We know that it is not a good idea to hang out at the railway station at night.
We know that in many cities, the rich people live on the hills or facing the sea, and the poor people live in the valleys.
We know that in many cities the traffic chokes the centre, polluting the air, making it hard for pedestrians and cyclists, making it hard to breathe, especially in the summer.
We know that alcohol leads to some funny stuff happening.
We know that some kids like to fight. We don't know what prison would be like.
Or solitary confinement. We know that the sun sets in the west and rises in the east.
We don't know much about you. We don't know if you're superstitious, or if you go to church, or if you keep your fingers crossed behind your back when making promises, or even if you're into witchcraft.
We don't know anything about you. We don't know if any of you have a criminal record.
We don't know if any of you are under investigation by the police.
We don't know if any of you are troublemakers. We don't know if any of you could actually be members of the police.
We don't know if you came here by chance, or if you just planned it.
We don't know if you came from far away or nearby.
We don't know if you are loners, drifters, or travellers.
We don't know if you're hard workers or lazy fools.
We don't know if you are bus drivers, teachers, office workers,
We don't know if you pay your taxes.
or if you cheat on your taxes.
Or if you're racist.
Or if you're kind people.
Or if you're murderers.
Or if you play football on weekends. If you like to cook or work in the garden. We have no clue.
We don't know a thing.
We don't know if you're actually members of the police, following other people in the audience, or perhaps you're police undercover, following us as part of your investigation.
But we do think that's pretty unlikely. We know that you are here. And we know that you are watching.
We know what's happening in this room.
We don't know what's happening in this room.
We're pretty sure we know what's happening in this room.
We don't know what's happening in this room.
We're not completely sure what's happening in this room.
We have no idea at all what is happening in this room.
We're confident we know what's happening in this room.
We think we know what's happening in this room.
We're pretty sure we know. We can feel your attention.
And your inattention.
We know you're watching with your eyes.
We know the light from the scene enters your eyes through your pupils.
The iris changes the size of the pupil depending on how bright the light is.
Opening and closing like a shutter.
The lens focuses the scene onto the back of the eye.
The retina.
The retina is a mass of sensory neurons called photoreceptors which change light signals into electrical ones.
We know that these signals are processed by the brain.
We know that if you look right into somebody's eyes, you can't tell what they are thinking.
We know that when you look deeply into someone's eyes, you can tell what they're thinking.
We know that when you look into someone's eyes, you can't tell what they're thinking.
We know that sometimes, on really specific occasions, if you look really deeply into someone's eyes, you can tell what they're thinking.
We know that if you look right into somebody's eyes, you can't tell what they are thinking.
We know that sometimes, on really specific occasions, if you look really deeply into someone's eyes, you can tell what they're thinking.
We know that sometimes, on really specific occasions, if you look really deeply in somebody's eyes, you can persuade yourself that you know what they are thinking.
We know that when you look into someone's eyes, you can't tell what they're thinking.
We know that if you look into somebody's eyes, you can take a guess as to what they are thinking.
We know that when you look deeply into someone's eyes, you can't tell a thing about what they are thinking.
If you cough, we hear that. If you laugh, we hear that too.
Any other movement, we also hear. Apart from really small movements, of course.
Or slow ones.
Like the movements of your eyelashes. Or the steady movement of your breathing.
We know that silence and stillness are a sign of concentration. We know that you are listening. We know that sound travels more slowly than light.
We know that sound waves are produced when air is moving.
When the air is mechanically disturbed,
That sound draws the human eye.
taking it from one place to another. We know that sound waves enter the human ear through the ear canal, making the eardrum vibrate. We know that these vibrations pass through a set of bones in the middle ear, and moving the fluid in the inner ear and bending the hair-like cells there to turn them into nerve impulses. These nerve impulses are sent to the brain by the auditory nerve and is converted to what people hear and understand as sound.
You can most likely hear us speaking that way. Or perhaps you're watching our lips move and working out what we are saying from the movement of our our mouths.
We know that most vocal sounds are made by a stream of air that flows from the lungs through the mouth and nose. We use the stream of air to form specific sounds by changing the movement of our mouths.
We know that some people tend to think before they speak.
People don't start talking for no reason without thinking.
They spend time considering thoughts or ideas they may want to convey.
And in this time of initial interior reflection comes the task of word finding.
Through which the person chooses the right words to articulate all the things that they might be thinking.
We don't know what you're thinking though. We don't know if you're concentrating, focusing really hard on what's happening. Or maybe you're drifting off. We know the warm and the dark of the theatre can make it tempting to go to sleep, to fall back, to let the darkness fold around you.
We know you're out there.
Watching. The neurons in your retinas turning what you see into electrical signals that are processed by your brains.
We know for sure that you're in front of us.
But what's happening behind us we can't be so sure of?
Technically, somebody could be walking behind us, slowly, quietly. We wouldn't be aware of it. Unless we set up a camera.
Or you could just look behind you.
What's happening backstage is also completely out of our grasps. We just won't know about it unless someone yells maybe, or coughs, or drops something heavy.
Or unless somebody breaks something. Glass, crockery, a mirror, something metal. We don't know what is happening in the foyer right now.
We don't know what's happening in South Africa.
Or in the car park.
Or in Paris.
Or on the other side of the street. Or on the other side of town.
Or on Mount Everest. We don't know what is happening in Glasgow, or in Porto, or in the toilets downstairs, or even in Barnstable, or in Shanghai,
Or in Bosnia, in France, in moons, in mountains, in Shasha,
or even under the ocean. We don't know what is happening in the International Space Station.
We don't know anything about the International Space Station.
We know that the International Space Station is the largest artificial body in Earth's orbit, and from here, from the Earth, you can see it with the naked eye. The ISS is the same size as a football field, an American football field. It weighs the same as around 330 cars.
But we're not sure what type of cars.
We know it's up there, but we don't know what's happening.
We don't know much about the International Space Station.
We know that the ISS consists of pressurized modules, truces, and large solar panels, maintain an orbital altitude of 380 kilometers and completing 15.5-hour orbits a day. We know it's been up there for 196 months since October 2000 and continuously occupied for 16 years, 3 months, and 18 days, maintaining the longest representation of human presence in space.
You can see it with the naked eye.
We don't know what it'd be like to be up there.
we don't know what it would be like to spend a 6 months expedition up there with only 46 other people.
solitary confinement?
We know a bit about the passage of time. We don't know much about the passage of time.
We know that the human sense of time is linked to the movement of the Earth, its orbit around its rotation on its axis, which produces day and night, its orbit around the sun, which will take a year to complete. We know that a human's heartbeat speeds up when that person is excited. That physical exercise, sleep, anxiety, stress, food and drugs all lead to the human heartbeat. We know that the average human heartbeat is 60 to 100 beats per minute. We know that this performance is around 3,375 heartbeats in around 60 minutes in clock time. Unless something goes wrong. In which case, the performance could be longer or shorter accordingly. The duration changes if people say things they aren't supposed to say. Like if someone skips ahead a few pages or jumps to the end.
We know that sometimes in rehearsals we got stuck in a loop.
And in those loops, it sometimes takes a little while before everybody realises what is happening.
We know that these loops happen when a sentence doesn't go to a new pace,
But instead takes us back to where we've already been.
and in loops, time seems to go slowly, but sometimes it seems to go faster.
You know the performance lasts about 60 minutes.
Unless something goes wrong.
For example, if someone says something they're not supposed to say.
Or, if something that should be said gets repeated.
We know that in rehearsals we've got stuck in loops.
But sometimes, usually, somebody does notice.
We know that out of everyone here, Kelsey might be the best gymnast.
We know the roundabout now is probably the hardest part of the performance. You know what the parameters are, the rules, the possibilities. The stall of it all is all laid out. It's clear what we can do, as we're not pulling rabbits out of hats anymore, but rather walking the borders of a space that has its limits.
We know that Kian's favourite TV show is 8 out of 10 cats.
We know that Sean's favourite game is FIFA.
We know that Kelsey is the best gymnast here.
We know that Enya can only play 3 songs and the guitar. We know that Bethany's favourite book of all time is 50 Shades of Grey.
We know that Tegan can dance.
We know that Abby likes to dance, but she can't do it very well.
We know that from his best bedroom, she can hear the sound of next door neighbour's tumblewear.
We know that out of all of us here on stage, the most likely to cry in any situation is Tegan.
We know that Sean's bedroom is never dark because she has fairy lights.
We know that Kian sometimes needs girls up to his bedroom so that he can perform
said Bedroom, was her sister.
Kean made marks on the bathroom wall.
Kelsey is a good person to go to about the things going missing in her kitchen, in her house, where she lives.
We know that there are some private things, a diary and so on, hidden in the cupboard of Abby's sister's room.
You know, the most used number on Kelsey's phone is 07654320157.
But most of us don't know whose number that is.
We know that where you are, when the seats are all occupied, you are sat closer together than we are.
We know the distance on stage between us is around 60 centimetres.
And then the distance between us up here on stage and you in the front row is around 3, maybe 4 metres.
We know that from where we're standing to the back of the stage is 6 metres.
We know that the world's fastest sprinter could cover that distance in 0.2 seconds.
We know a spider could spin around from that wall to here in 60 minutes.
We know that there are 10 of us.
And more or less, 61 of you.
We know the world's population is around 7.2 billion and the world's landmass is just under 150,000 square kilometres.
We know that if you divide all this space equally, each person would have roughly 21,000 square miles.
We know that space on Earth is not divided in this way.
It's more unequal.
Some have lots, others have none.
Just like some have money and others have nothing.
We know that although people criticise inequality, this doesn't really lead to change.
You know what people say doesn't always reflect on what they do.
People's actions don't always match their principles.
We know that some people get off on hurting others.
And exerting power over them, directly or indirectly.
That some people are assholes and idiots. We know that some people are selfish.
Well, we know that some people are big mouths.
And we know that sometimes it's hard to get taxis in the early morning.
We know you can't trust boys.
We know you can't trust girls.
We know you can't trust boys or girls.
We don't think we can trust you.
We're not sure if we can trust you.
know that sitting there in the dark, watching us talk, you let your eyes and your attention wander.
We know that you're probably just pretending to focus on the stage whilst doing other things.
You don't know if you're paying attention.
Or drifting up.
We certainly don't know if you're daydreaming.
We know that things that seem like a bad idea when you're sober can start to seem like a great idea when you've been drinking. We know that sometimes people cling to the facts because uncertainty or questions are too much to bear.
We know that snow and rain both fall downwards unless there's wind.
We know that the Second World War is over.
We know that the Trojan War is over. We know that the Cold War has more or less started again.
And we know that the war of words has been going on for quite some time.
We know that the steam engine is obsolete.
We know that its skin can burn if it's exposed to too much sunlight.
Or radiation.
We know that if you eat too much, you get sick.
Or fat.
We know that in darkness you can't see anything. Items deleted on computers are rarely actually deleted.
We know that some people cope better with stress than others.
We know this morning the pound slipped against the dollar.
We know that the FTSE index slipped a little as well.
That the euro stayed stable.
But Xerox took a tumble.
That the stock Apple exchange a small fall by 0.3 cents.
And then there was a rise in the price of oil.
Rise in the price of the grain.
Though we're not too sure about the stock exchange currently.
We know that the most damage that comes from a nuclear weapon comes from the explosive blast. A shockwave of air radiates outwards from the explosion, producing sudden changes in air pressure. This change in air pressure is what crushes objects and topples buildings, whereas people and objects like trees and telegraph poles are destroyed by the wind. We know that the size of the bomb blast is related to what point the explosion took place above the ground level.
We know that bombs make a sound. We know that bombs make a terrible sound.
We don't know much.
We know plenty.
We know nothing.
We don't know much.
We know plenty. We don't know anything.
We don't know much.
We don't know anything. We know what happens, but we don't always know why.
We know that some people get closer.
Or further away.
We know that memories fade.
That economies rise and fall. That colours fade.
That muscles waste.
That cities change.
That eyesight blurs.
That skin loosens.
That lights fade. That uncertainty, once present, rapidly multiplies.
We do know that in 85 years' time, all of us here, the people on stage, will be dead. And very likely, you will be dead before we are. And the people on the outside will also be dead. We know that some people get nervous if there's too much talk about death.
They get a bit nervous.
They get nervous if there's too much talk about illness too, for obvious reasons, for similar reasons.
We know that some people get a bit nervous if you start waving a gun around too.
They get a bit nervous if there's too much talk about love, but for different reasons.
They get a bit nervous if there's too much talk about sex
About penetration.
About pleasure.
or orgasm.
People also get a bit nervous if there's too much talk about race, about politics, or about money.
People don't want to hear long descriptions of global warming and the effects it is having.
And people don't want to hear long descriptions of YouTube clips in which someone gets killed.
They don't want to hear long descriptions about who has money and who has none.
We know that easy topics for conversation is things like the traffic of yesterday.
And the sunlight the day before, the food, and plans for the summer.
We know that sometimes a difficult conversation is followed with a kind of awkward silence.
Like in a movie where they make a clock tick or a tap drip seem really, really loud.
Or when the silence simply seems nervous, like time itself is scratching the skin, awkward and uneasy. Each second a big, sharp sound.
We know that humans and animals are different.
That dolphins are intelligent, bees are collective, and rats are resourceful.
We know that dogs are loyal.
That cats have personality. That foxes sometimes kill for reasons other than hunger.
That spiders cannot swim.
We know that some birds migrate tens of thousands of kilometres working from some kind of radar in relation to the Earth's magnetic fields.
And that some people are better at reading maps than others.
We know that some people can't find themselves on a mobile GPS.
We know that the behaviour of animals can be changed and conditioned using the consistent application of particular systems of reward and punishment. Rats placed in a closed box, sometimes called a Skinner box, or conditioning operant chamber, quickly learn that pressing a particular lever is linked with the arrival of food or the cessation of an unpleasant electrical current. We know there's no real difference between the learning that takes place in humans and which takes place in other animals. B.F. Skinner proposed that humans learn behaviour in much the same way as rats learn to press a lever. Skinner believed that human free will was actually an illusion, and that instead our actions are best understood as results of their consequences. If the results of the consequences are bad, the chances are it's less likely to be repeated. However, if the results of a consequence is good, there's a good chance it will be repeated in future behaviour. Skinner called this the principle of reinforcement.
We know that time passes.
But
that time is passing. That things are slowly closing down.
We know from the top of our heads to the ceiling is about 12 metres. If we were to start digging straight down, using picks and spades by hand, we would have to go about 6,371 kilometres before reaching the centre of the earth.
Assuming that all of us work together digging 2 metres per day, depending on the type of ground we encountered, it would take an average of 872 years before reaching the centre or core.
But of course, while all that is true, we know that by then we'd all be long dead, from old age and exhaustion.
We know that time passes.
That time has passed.
That language is a trap.
And a way out of the trap.
That language is both a trap and a way out of a trap.
That language makes and shapes the world we're in.
That language is a tool to get us out of everything.
We know that Abby believes in ghosts.
We know the world would be different if circumstances were to change. If the dinosaurs were still living and if the water level rises.
Or if Hitler had not been born. If the Chinese emperor, the Song of Song, had died young. If the Palestinians had landed on the moon first. If Columbus never discovered America. If World War I never happened. And if Nelson Mandela was never freed.
We know that Kian saw a ghost in the corner of his bathroom, standing, watching, waiting.
We know that Sean has a recurring dream of falling.
We know that Abby has a dream that it's only a sound.
We know that you are watching, waiting.
We know that electromagnetic fields or electric shocks can produce hallucinations.
We know that internet data is under heavy surveillance.
We know that chromosomes are short sections of DNA, and that genes are DNA is a short section of genes.
We know that each person has their own individual DNA molecules.
Other than identical twins, each person's DNA is unique.
We know that some people sometimes get a feeling that something is wrong. A feeling that's not linked to a concrete event.
Or sometimes people get the opposite feeling, that things are going to be okay.
We know that neither of these feelings can be trusted.
We know that some people are optimists, others pessimists.
We know that things change.
We know that things stay the same.
We know that some people close their eyes to concentrate.
And we know that some people make wishes in the dark.
We know that time is passing.
That time has passed.
Time has certainly passed.
We know that people get feelings sometimes not linked to a concrete event.
We know that some people feel sure of themselves.
We know that some people are good at listening.
We know that you were listening.
That some people believe that time is slowing down. That time is shifting.
That people change.
That people change all the time.
That time has passed.
That time has moved on.
are change.